This is the Mental Metal Podcast, and I am your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm a former athlete, teacher, coach, and athletic director that switched careers after surviving cancer and a stroke in the fall of 2020. But I'm also a dad of a son and a daughter that were successful high school athletes that went on to college. Now I use that experience along with my ICF coaching certification when helping teams, coaches, and athletes from all over the country. Each week, I will pose a specific question that will help coaches of all types better understand mental toughness. In the Mental Metal Podcast, coaches will learn to help their athletes overcome adversity without being the adversity they need to overcome. Welcome back to the Mental Metal Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and I am excited to be here. And as always, very thankful that you continue to tune in and continue to share, that you like, and just try to promote the things that I'm doing, because I do this because I love it, and I do it because I think it's worth it. And I think it's worth the time and energy I put into this. And if I can help just one person, I know I've done my job, and that's what it's about for me. And to a little bit better to understand why I do what I do, and why I went down this path of working with athletics. If you haven't heard all of my story, you know that I had my own issues with mental health after I had to recover from a cancer diagnosis, and then had to recover from a stroke, and just had some pretty serious PTSD and some uh, anxiety issues. And that's what led me into this coaching profession, because when I got the therapy that I needed and then started to get some coaching, I started realizing that this positive psychology stuff was really useful. Who knew, right? Like, I had always felt like uh, physical health was really important. I was an athlete in high school and college, and I always, after I got out of college, I was always lifting and running, and physical health was important to me. But I kind of thought, well, that'll fix it, right? Like, and because going out and going for a run and lifting they're good for your mental health, and that's certainly true. But I kind of felt like, well, that's as much as I'm doing. I'm running a marathon and I'm doing these things. Well, that ought to do it. But there's more than that. So I think that once I had to get that therapy when I was, in a really bad way, I started realizing, okay, well, wait, there's something to this, right? There's something to doing things intentional to improve my mental health. And again, I liked it so well. That's what led me down the path of becoming a certified coach. I went to a program called Lark Song. I'm forever indebted to them, and what they helped me learn about myself and about positive psychology, just and the coaching profession, which now I'm happy to be doing. Uh, just so thankful that that was a situation for me, and how God led me to that door, and doing that. But when I came out and I had my certification, well, it's like, well, now you have to actually like put it to use, and you have to figure out who your clientele is. And I think that a lot of people, when they get their coaching certification, they're just going to like put a couple posts on Facebook, and people are going to come knocking your door down and wanting to get better because you realize how useful it is. Well, not everybody's there yet. And certainly I did that. It was like, I'm a coach now. Everybody's just going to come knock on my door and want me to help them. And that's really doesn't happen. So you have to, yeah, I had to learn a lot about marketing, and putting my name out there, and social media and stuff, and things that I really didn't want to do, but I had to do it, and I've gotten better at. But one of the things I had to do is figure out what sort of niche, like, who's my clientele, who am I gonna coach, right? I the devil's in the details, and you got to be specific about who you're looking for. And that, when the first time that was asked of me, who's your clientele, it did not take me long to realize I wanted to work with athletes. And the reason that was so easy for me to understand is because I'd spent so many years coaching athletes and just knowing how mindset affected performance, and how important it was for an athlete to have the right mindset going into a practice or a game, and just for them being able to be confident and get the success that they wanted. It's huge. I think as adults, we see it with kids. We know that, you have some athlete that broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and well, they're not going to have a good game, and they don't. And, or there's have things struggling going on when they at home, and it's going to affect their performance. And, or you see so many athletes that really get upset about calls or coaches' decisions, and then they can't even function and can't play well. And I realized that when someone doesn't have the right mindset going into athletics, they're not getting the benefit of athletics that they're wanting. And so it didn't take long for me to do that and say, hey, I want to work with athletes. And I think that was really what really solidified it for me. Was my last coaching gig was coaching girls basketball. And most of my coaching career had been with coaching boys from junior high to high school. And so my short gig as a high school girls basketball coach was like, well, it's still basketball. How different can it be? Well, the game's the same, but there's a fair difference between the way some of the confidence levels in the guys and the girls, and it's not 100% certainly, but there are. It seems to be, and look, this isn't just my thing. There's entire books about this, about, some females tend to struggle with the confidence issues, and boys have their whole other issues. A lot of times they have confidence, but it's actually arrogance. And I work with athletes, boys and girls, men and women, and they're not all the same there, but there's a lot of similarities. And a lot of the times, and I have a lot of female athletes that I work with, a lot of times with the females, the issues that I have are they really have a strong negative voice in their head that's always beating themselves up, telling them that they're not good enough, and really sends them down a negative spiral down. And the other one is a lot of times they struggle with a lack of confidence for a number of reasons. That could be due to what others are saying, social media, comparison, all those things. They just don't think they're good enough, and they lack that confidence. Again, it's not 100% either way, but that's just in my experience, which is starting to be substantial here in all the athletes that I work with. A lot of female athletes that struggle with confidence. And the good news is when I get that, when a parent comes to me and says that, hey, here's the struggle. I have so much experience now in helping female athletes gain that confidence and move forward, that I feel really confident in being able to tell them that I will help them gain their confidence. It's I feel really, I feel real good in my, if you want to call it a sales pitch, but I feel really good about that when they come to me and say that. I'm like, yeah, I this coaching, this performance coaching that I do is really going to help out your daughter. And I have that conversation a lot, and it's, and I'm right a lot, not to be arrogant about it, but it works. It's really good. And that brings up my guest today. She's not a client of mine, but I have some friends of mine. John Hughes, he was on the podcast, one of my very early episodes, is a coach at Normal Community, and then a friend of mine named Dave Feeney, who is the head girls basketball coach at Normal Community, who I played college basketball with. They were both telling me about this runner they have at Normal Community. Her name's Allie Ince, and she is just one of the premier runners in the nation at the 800 meter level. And she also plays basketball. And they both told me that this is somebody you ought to have on. And after doing the interview, I couldn't agree more. I I mean, if you have, I'm really going to promote this podcast to any female athletes and parents of female athletes that really want to get some tips on gaining that confidence and getting control of those inner voices and just how important it is. And I just can't say enough about this guest today. So pay attention as we listen. She's going to give some really good tips on confidence, those voices that how to face adversity and just having success. She's had a lot of success. So it's really, she's a good person to listen to. I've had experience working with female athletes and helping them, but I mean, Allie is a senior high school student that is a successful athlete, and she's a female. So she has she has a lot of experience in this, and I think it's worth listening to. So stick around. I have some really good breakdown after she's done talking and just some of the points I want to bring up. So yeah, right after the break, listen up, and Allie Ince coming up. Parents, do you know that your child struggles with a negative voice in their head when they play? If so, do something about it. My webinar coming up is called Own Your Voice and Empower Your Game. You see, the inner voice wields immense influence over your athlete's mental state. Successful athletes recognize that confidence, resilience, and lasting success are deeply intertwined with a positive inner dialogue. So invest in the mental health of your athlete, not just for athletics, but for a lifetime of victories. Join this webinar to gain tools and techniques needed to nurture a positive inner voice. And again, that's not just for athletics, but for a fulfilling life ahead. Register now for the webinar that's on Sunday, October 22nd at 6 o'clock p.m. and learn how to own your voice to empower your game. The Mental Metal Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Quick Cut. Quick Cut is the new alternative to Huddle. It's no secret why Quick Cut is the fastest growing platform in the country. Their video analysis platform has everything you need. Plus, you'll get triple the storage at about half the price. And now get even more when you use the promo code 50hours for 50 hours of free video storage. Make the switch. You'll be glad you did. Visit quickcut.com today. Welcome back to the Mental Metal Podcast, and I am here with my guest, Allie Ince of Normal Community High School, and also for now run some for the USA, correct? And yeah. I would miss so much. Of course, I've been doing a little bit of reading up on you, and I used to live in the Normal area, so I've heard of your exploits and some things like that. So I see the news stories, and I could make this list of some of your accolades, but I know I would miss some. So please introduce yourself. Tell us what sports you play, what you do, and just what you're doing recently this summer. I know you had a big summer as far as the running goes. So take it away, Allie.
All right. Yeah. So I'm Allie. I go to Normal Community High School. I'm a senior and I run track and cross country, and I also play basketball there. So lots of sports. I love them all. And then just recently, this past summer, I competed on Team USA in Puerto Rico in the 800 meter. And it was a great experience. Got to meet so many good girls, and it was a really cool stadium that we got to race in, and just where the USA jersey was, just a dream come true.
Yeah, and this was the U20 division, is that correct?
Yeah, it was U20 division, so the younger USA team. So we were competing against a lot of people who were a little bit older, but all either freshmen in college or younger.
Yeah. So at this meet, were there any other countries there? Is it just USA?
Yeah, there was around 40 teams, I want to say. There was like 7 teams. I think it was us, Canada, Brazil, Jamaica, and Canada, who were like the main ones who actually had like a full roster there. But other than that, there was like 30 other ones who maybe had, 1 or 2 athletes that were there competing. But got to meet, I would say, like at least people from at least 20 different countries. So it was super cool.
Well, and plus Puerto Rico feels a little bit like a different country. I mean, I know it's a, you know, it certainly, I'm sure, felt a little bit different even being there.
Yeah, it did. A lot of people spoke Spanish, so the
Yeah.
Spanish definitely came in a little bit. And then the food was completely different. I was
Yeah.
expecting there to be a little bit more of like what we have in the US, but it was quite different what we were eating in the resort.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, you're there to run, you're there to compete, and you got to find a whole new different menu to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, were you able to go find some chicken fingers or something at least?
Yeah, they thankfully like we were staying in a resort with all the other countries and you could like sign out and with your parents or something to go get food. And so I ate the food that was there. It was really good. It just wasn't what I was used to. There was like pork for breakfast, which it was really delicious, but that's not really what I'm used to eating for breakfast. And so you could sign out and go like get food with a parent. So we went to a sandwich stop a few days just to change it up a little bit and eat a little bit more of what I would eat on like a regular race schedule.
Oh, I'm all for experiencing culture and trying new foods and all that, but I don't know if I want to do that when I got an 800-meter run coming up
Yeah.
that, I'm trying to get a time, but yeah. So now, obviously, to be able to be brought into the USA U20 team, like you didn't just like, hey, sign an application and just go. Like you've got some accolades from high school in the track season. Well, I know this last 2023 track season, you had a really good state championship meet. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one.
Okay,
Um
give me a little more. Give me a little more. I know that you won several races, right?
Yeah, we went in the 4x8 and we got 7th in that, and then I won in the 800 and the 400, and then our 4x4 also won. So, yeah, overall this track season, it was very successful as a like team. We had a really good and solid 4x8 and 4x4, which was really fun. To get to go to state, it was amazing with those four girls. It was pretty much the same on the 4x8 and the 4x4. We just had one change from to the 4x4. Another girl ran on it, but yeah, Charleston's always such a good, meet, and just to go down there with the girls was super fun, and I think the 400 was a really fun race. It was me and this other girl, I forget where she's from, but it came down to, like, a hundredth of a second, which, I mean, it's really close, but that's how it's fun to run a 400. You want to go down to the wire, that's how you're gonna run your fastest time, and then the 800 it was good as well. I'd like to get the state, record, but maybe next year.
So okay, then throw it out there. What's the state record?
The state record is 207 something. I'm not sure what the, like, milliseconds are, but
Okay.
I freshman year was, I think, 700ths of a second off of it because I didn't even know what it was, and so I, like, was just running the 800 to win it, and if I would've known that I was that close, I would've sprinted just a little faster, but, it gives me something to shoot for, I guess, for next year.
Yeah. So if I'm reading that and if I got this right, like, have you won the 800 all 3 years so far?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that when you got that in your back pocket, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so, well, yeah. And so that's something you're really good at. Like, hey, I want to get the 4P this year, right?
Yep, that's the goal, and
And
hopefully
so the 4P and get get the state record as well.
yes,
Well, there you
yes.
go. You got work to do, right?
I do, yes.
That's awesome. So let's get into. I want to talk about the mentality of a runner, and the reason I say that is I have worked. Now I've never worked. Just so anybody listening, I've never worked. This is our first meeting. This is the first time we've talked. I've just have some friends, some coaches I know that are like, hey, you really need to get Allie on the show. So this is the first time we've met, but I've worked with several runners before, as far as in my business, working with athletes and doing the performance coaching and things like that. And you run a fast 800. There's no doubt about that. But you have 2 minutes to talk to yourself while you're running, while you're doing it.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
there's can be a lot can go well in a little over 2 minutes. What sort of how do you develop a mentality and a mindset, and how you talk to yourself in those races to be able to keep pushing and keep working like you are?
Yeah, so for the 800, I honestly, before the race, I divide the 800 into each 100, and I type it in my notes app, and I kinda write next to it what I'm gonna be, like, telling myself each 100 or what I wanna be doing in that 100, throughout the entire 800. So, usually the first 100, I'm, like, yelling at myself in my head to get out fast, and then second 200, just kinda maintain and get to the 200 mark, and then the next whole 200 coming into the 400, it's all about just like keeping your form and, you know, slowly speeding up, but getting to the 400. And then the last lap, that is where the mental toughness really comes in because you already sprinted one lap and you already have to do another one. And so at that point, you just gotta for me, I just tell myself like I've put in the training. I know my body can do this. It's gonna hurt, but like, mentally, if you can get your mind to, get your legs to do it, your legs are fully capable. You just have to, like, tell your mind to do it because that's kind of the part that holds me back from, finishing that last 200 as fast as I possibly could.
I don't think it's just you. I think that's a lot of runners, especially in 800, because an 800 is that it's that middle distance, right? Like you can
Mhm.
try to sprint, it, but it's not going to go well, and it's not a distance. So it's somewhere in between. So how do you? What I'm picking up there, it feels like your races are you racing yourself? You racing others? You doing both?
Yeah, definitely doing both. I mean, it helps to have competition, and that's when you can run your fastest when there's people, by you. But even if you're in the most competitive race and, if you don't have mental toughness and you're not, like, confident in yourself, then you're not probably gonna run a fast time. You gotta be able to know and be able to push your body into that next gear to be able to keep up with everyone as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that. We all know that hey, if you've got competition, you're more likely to run a faster race, and I don't think anybody's debating that. But that feels like that tells us something about mentality and how the mind is actually a big part of a race.
Mhm.
And I don't know how do you like. I'm sure that a lot of your races, Allie, aren't. You're probably out in front a ways. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Um, for me, I kinda I obviously love being competitive races, but it's also kind of fun to be by yourself sometimes and just to see, like that's when it really comes down to just you and your own mind, and so I think that's when you really get good because you can push yourself, like pushing your own self, as opposed to like other people pushing you. I think there's a difference in that. Getting yourself to like go faster and do hard things is then like just going to prepare you even more for when you're in those really competitive races.
I agree. I say we should always be doing hard things because the more we hard things we do on purpose make it easier. Like I like to say that if we put ourselves in voluntary adversity, then the mandatory adversity of life gets a little bit easier. And
Mhm.
but how do you how do you like when you talk to yourself while you're running, you're doing stuff? I work with athletes a lot, and we talked about the voices in your head, and like do you stay fairly positive? Or are you one of these people that like really hard on yourself? Is it a little bit of a mix? I'm just curious what goes on in your brain while you're doing these races.
Yeah, so what happens in my head is completely different from cross country and track. We'll start off with track. In track, I'm very positive. The gun goes off and I have confidence. I'm telling myself like you got this, like sprint. I'm a little tough on myself for track. Like if I come through and my splits like slower than I would have wanted it to, I'll like mentally inside my head being like you're going slow, like you need to speed it up. And then I'll start speeding up. But I think that's being positive is so good. You have to have positive self-talk even before. the race, like, in my mind, I'm telling myself, like, what's gonna happen, like, play by play, like, I'm gonna step up to the line, then they're gonna say go, and I'm gonna take off fast, but then if we flip over to cross country, my mindset could be better. It's definitely a little bit more negative since 3 miles is long. I'm used to running 400 and 800s. So, I think mentally I've grown a lot in the cross country season because last season and even sophomore season, the gun would go off and it would be like 800 into the race, and I'm like, I should be done by now. Like that's my event. And I still have 2.5 more miles left, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I cannot do this. And I start telling myself that like people will pass me, and I'm like, they're better at cross country than me. I'm a track runner, which that should not be going through my head. And even sometimes through my head, I'm like, yeah, I just cannot do this anymore. Like I just want to do track only. And those are just such bad thoughts to have in the head while you're racing. You're only going to be doing worse if you have those thoughts. And so, really, junior year, last year, I was working consciously during each race that when those thoughts came into my head, I would just completely cancel them out and be like, they're just thoughts. They're not actually true. And then just try to catch a girl in front of me. And it really did help. Like, my physical ability was not any better. I wasn't like getting faster as the season went on, but just that switch in my mindset helped me to get better in cross country, which I think shows how much mentality plays into, becoming better. And so that's something that cross country's helped me with is definitely my mindset. It's fine in track. Track I'm good. I'm really positive, but when it gets to that longer distance, it's a little bit more of a difficulty for me.
I love to hear you say that. And one of the things I always talk about on different speeches and things I do is talk about we have different, like we can have, it's running, Allie, right? Like people would be like, well, why is one okay and the other's not? What's the difference? Things like that. But we precondition our heads for different situations. You're like, oh, cross country, I hate cross country. But track, oh, I'm fine with that. And it's all here. It's all the way we perceive something. And yeah, and it's no fun to sit out there and run for 3 miles and hate yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, might as well like it.
No, it's I love to hear you say that. Let's take a break, and when we come back, like you're a fairly mentally tough kid already, and the people that I know that know you have told me that. That's why you should be on the show, and I get that. But I want to get into how you develop it, where it came from. Maybe even like I love the nature versus nurture debate. Is it you feel like it's
Mhm.
a genetic thing or something you create? And so we'll come back and we'll have that conversation in just a
Sounds
moment.
good.
Less than 1% of high school athletes ever become professional athletes. But as parents, we invest in their athletic pursuits because we know it's worth it. Sports build vital life skills. Confidence, perseverance, and the joy they bring are invaluable lessons from sports. But what if your athlete is facing the other side? What if anxiety, apathy, and sorrow have replaced the joy? Well, I can help. My name is Matt Thomann, and I am a certified mental coach. And I understand the challenges young athletes face. I've seen mental coaching transform the mindset of many young athletes. It's not about turning them into pros, but nurturing their inner strength for sports and for life. At Mental Metal Coaching, we offer virtual sessions to help them tackle challenges, build confidence, and rediscover the joy of sports. Every young athlete deserves to thrive. Mental Metal Coaching, facing adversity with a smile. Educators and coaches, let's talk about professional development speakers for a moment. You know the drill. There's some good out there, but there's a lot of bad. I've been there and I've felt your frustration. And that's why I've got something different for you. Professional development that's actually engaging and genuinely useful. As a certified coach and a former educator, I understand the struggles our students and athletes face. The pandemic's impact is real, but so is the potential for positive change. Mental Metal Coaching has 2 presentations designed to help you tackle the social emotional challenges that schools are dealing with. First is for teachers of all ages and is called Live Your 100. This transformative journey draws from my own experiences overcoming hardship. This seminar equips you with the tools to assess mental states, conquer challenges, and infuse positivity into classrooms and to teams. Learn not to survive, but actually thrive. And the second presentation is specifically for coaches, those that tend to sit in the back and draw up plays during presentations. This presentation is called Forging Mental Mettle in Athletes. It is not your typical PD. It's about actionable techniques. Empower your athletes to face adversity, develop growth mindsets, and break mental barriers that hold them back. I get it. The skepticism around PD is real, and that's why mental mettle coaching stands out. My presentations are rooted in real world struggles, delivering strategies that you can apply right away. If it all sounds good, contact me, Coach Thomann, or send my information to your administration. Let them know that you want to see professional development that will actually make a difference. And we are back on the Mental Mettle Podcast with my guest, track superstar Ince. And I want to talk to her about where her mental toughness comes from, because from my research and reading and stuff like that, there's a couple different places that you can get mental toughness from. There's definitely a genetic component. Okay. It's most of the research suggests that, your happiness level, your toughness level, things like that, it's somewhere around 50%. It's just you're born with certain things, but then it can also be developed. It can be improved. And that's something done intentionally with intentional activities. And I'm just curious, Allie's going into her senior year of high school. So, fairly young on figuring herself out and what comes from. I'm curious your thoughts on where, you're able to push past in that second lap of an 800 when I'm sure that people are falling down behind you, and you're not falling down, but you know what I mean? They're falling behind and you're able to keep going. Where's your mental toughness come from? How did you develop it? Do you feel like it's genetic? What do you think?
Yeah, for running specifically, I would say that my mental toughness, and I think it's similar for most runners, is that it just comes from your training. The training, I can say hands down, is way harder than a race. We do some workouts where I can it's tough to walk afterwards, or I'm in the bathroom for a while afterwards. I do not feel good, and so I think we did a workout once where it was I think it was 6 400 starting at 68 seconds for the first one, and then you got 2 seconds faster each one. And so if you do the math, the last one will be 59 60 seconds, which is super fast for the last rep after 6 400s. And before that workout, I was like, there's no way I can do it. That's gonna be crazy. And I was just thinking that the entire workout. But then each rep I would hit the pace, and at the last one it was finally 59 seconds, and I was with the guys and we hit 59 seconds. And so I think to do hard workouts like that faster, 59 is faster than I would be running a 400 and an 800, and knowing that I can do it then really prepares you for the 800. And so it's really these workouts where you're running faster than you would in a race, and you're honestly more tired than you are in a race, that then when you get into that race setting, your mind's like, oh, I've done this. I've been in this exact situation, and you can tell yourself that, and you can be like, if I conquered it in practice, then I can do it now. And on race day, you're going to have all that adrenaline as well. So that makes it even easier to go out there and crush the times. But yeah, I really think just working harder in practice, and you always say work hard now, it's going to be easier later. And I really think that's what it is in running. It's just doing all the little things in practice that get you mentally prepared for the big races.
And so speak for a minute, I think you have to have a good mindset around practice too, in order to be able to get the benefits. What is your, how do you view practice other than what you just said? What is your mindset going into each and every practice, if there is one?
Yeah, I think my mindset, at least on workout days, because for running, you don't necessarily go 100% every single day. You have to have recovery days. And so on workout days, I think it's just to take it each rep at a time, and, hit the time on each one and don't think about the end of the workout until you're there, because that can get a little overwhelming. And then also practice is definitely social. Got a lot of friends on the team, and so I think that's also a mental part of running, is that running is tough. There's no doubt about that. And so you got to have that extra part of it. You have to have the people, you got to have your reason why you do it. And for me, it's definitely the people. And I think that's another reason why it makes the running a little easier, is because you have people by your side who are going through that same pain and trying to push through. And so that definitely makes running a little bit easier.
So you said you have to have your reason why. What did you say? What is your reason why?
My reason why is definitely the people that you meet in the sport, running for the people, running with the people. It's really fun to go out and run with your friends. It's fun to go run in huge races and meet new people. And the coaches you meet, I love my coaches. It's amazing. So I think running just brings you to so many wonderful people, and you can just learn so much from others about the sport.
So it's the joint suffering that you enjoy.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. Yeah, no one suffers alone.
No, well, that's fair. But it's probably more fun to. I know it's more fun to suffer and win than suffer and not win. So,
That's very true.
so talk to me a little bit. You see, I love what you talked there about putting yourself in situations to be more prepared for situations, and I think that's great. So, how has how has your confidence grown in the sport, in your ability to go to bigger meets and perform and things like that?
Yeah, I think my confidence just has grown over the past year because of all the experiences that I've gotten to have, racing internationally just recently, and then also just racing around the country in so many big and competitive races. You just get so much experience, and the 800 and the 1600 I also run. They can be ran a lot of different ways. They either can go out really fast, they can go out slower, and it'll come down to a last final sprint. And so as a freshman, I was not really aware of all the different ways you could run a race. I just thought it would be ran the same way every
Yeah.
single time. And so I wasn't really like prepared for that. And so when it would be taken like a different way that I wasn't ready for, I would like be like, oh no, like I don't know what to do in this situation. But now that I'm older, I am kind of aware of all those. And so when something doesn't go like my way, I don't panic, and I just know that my training's there. I know what to do. I've been in this situation before. And even just recently racing in Puerto Rico, even though that wasn't like my best race ever, it'll give me more confidence in future races, because I've had that experience of kind of like how you warm up before the race. It's a whole different process when you're running in a big meet like that, in the process before the race and even like during the race. And so just to have that experience gives you confidence for the future.
Yeah, I no, I'm sure that had to be what, like, you said ran several meets this summer, right?
Yeah, I
Because where you were,
ran.
I know other than Puerto Rico, where else were you?
Yeah, so after the state meet, I ran a meet in St. Louis. I ran the mile there, and then from there I went to Seattle and ran an 800, and then from Seattle I went to Philadelphia and ran another 800 there. Those were like within 3 days. And then we went to Oregon like 3 weeks later to qualify for Puerto Rico. So it was a long summer racing, but it was really fun.
Yeah. What was your favorite location?
My favorite location. I would definitely have to say Puerto Rico, just because I'd never been
Yeah.
there before. Um, and it was really pretty. We stayed at a nice resort, and it had like water everywhere, so it was really pretty.
Nice. Nice. Was it hot?
It was so hot. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was like
that
105. That was like
uh,
the actual temperature, but the real feel on the track was probably hotter.
well, I mean, then I guess that's understandable maybe why it wasn't your best race, right?
Yeah, the whole field, like no one ran like PRs, but yeah, I was a little disappointed, but it's all right. It's all right.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. That's a whole nother level of toughness. Is you like was it 105 during your race at that moment?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was exactly 105. It was definitely way hotter than it is here, right? Like not right now. Right now it's super hot in Illinois.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean going into the race I knew it was going to be super hot, but the 800 is a pretty easy race to run in the heat. Um I wouldn't be wanting to run the 10K in 100-degree weather. That would be awful. Um
There's levels of easy. Yeah, I get
yeah.
it, but
It's an
it's not
easier
like
event to
yeah,
run in the heat.
yeah, it's easier than running a marathon. I'll
Yeah.
agree, but it's not gonna be fun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I think
mean,
just going into that race, I knew it was going to be hot, but I think what I always tell myself is like everyone else is going through that too. It's not just you. And so that's when the mental toughness really comes in because like I honestly in my opinion like when challenges arise like at the state meet, we've had a rain delay the past 3 years and there's been like 5 hours where no one's racing. And I like my coaches are always like, "Oh, a challenge arise like that's going to play in your favor because you are mentally tough." And everyone has to go through it. So if you can just like stay calm and, get over that challenge, then you're going to be better off.
oh, what great news for you to think that because I got news for you. I know you're young, but there's always obstacles.
I know.
It's always something. So if you feel like, hey, this is, having a tough obstacle is plays in your favor, that's exactly what we're talking about putting the work in and putting yourself in difficult situations so that when the unexpected happen, you're like, oh, that's fine, no big deal. I love it. I love what you're talking about. So you have you're coming up senior year, but I'm and at least I saw you haven't figured out where you're going to college yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
But I'm assuming you're going somewhere to run, right?
Yeah, I'll be running in college.
And yeah, and so you're going to step up and have a little bit more pressure coming up. Like
Mhm.
what's your do you have a game plan for handling that pressure or you just feel like it's not going to be an issue?
Yeah, I haven't really like thought about the pressure. I mean, it'll be definitely different going into college and, right now it's like one of the top runners in high school and then you're going to go to college and you're going to be at the bottom again and so you kind of got to work your way up. So, I think that's a little bit of pressure right there. Like just like, oh, I have to like, you know, get a lot better and there's going to be a lot of challenges there. But I think pressure is a good thing. It's going to, bring out the best. At least it does in me, I think. And when hard things come my way, I like to be able to overcome them. And so, yeah, I haven't really thought too much about the pressure. There definitely will be some, but
Sure, but I mean, did you feel much pressure when you went down to Puerto Rico and these other because those are good runners too?
yeah, there's definitely there was pressure, a little bit of pressure in Puerto Rico just because it was the first time wearing the USA jersey, which, you wanna, like, honor them well, and so stepping on that track, it was a little bit of pressure, but mostly almost all fun. But for the whenever the pressure happens and, like, the nerves kick in, I just realize, like, it means I care, a lot, and so whenever I feel that, I know, like, it's gonna be a good race because I know I care a ton about what's gonna happen.
Oh, what a great answer. And I think it's such it's a mature answer. I love it because I think that the things that we feel the most pressure under are the things we care the most about. And
Mhm.
so we should feel that way. When you go into a
Right.
run or a game or something, you should feel a little bit of pressure because that means you care. And that's fantastic that you do that. Let's take another break. And then I want to get into the fact that you are also, while all your training and all this, you're actually still playing basketball, right?
Yep,
Which,
still fun.
so I love that idea that you are going to go somewhere to college. You're already wearing a USA jersey in the summers, but you're like, oh, I'm still going to go play basketball for my high school team. And I love that. I love the multi-sport stuff. I think it's fantastic. And we'll get into that when we get back and right after this break. The Mental Metal Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Quick Cut. Quick Cut is the new alternative to Huddle. It's no secret why Quick Cut is the fastest growing platform in the country. Their video analysis platform has everything you need. Plus, you'll get triple the storage at about half the price. And now get even more when you use the promo code 50hours for 50 hours of free video storage. Make the switch. You'll be glad you did. Visit quickcut.com today. Less than 1% of high school athletes ever become professional athletes. But as parents, we invest in their athletic pursuits because we know it's worth it. Sports build vital life skills. Confidence, perseverance, and the joy they bring are invaluable lessons from sports. But what if your athlete is facing the other side? What if anxiety, apathy, and sorrow have replaced the joy? Well, I can help. My name is Matt Thomann, and I am a certified mental coach. And I understand the challenges young athletes face. I've seen mental coaching transform the mindset of many young athletes. It's not about turning them into pros, but nurturing their inner strength for sports and for life. At Mental Metal Coaching, we offer virtual sessions to help them tackle challenges, build confidence, and rediscover the joy of sports. Every young athlete deserves to thrive. Mental Metal Coaching, facing adversity with a smile. And welcome back to the Mental Metal Podcast. One more segment here with my guest, Ince of Normal Community High School and of USA track and field. But that's not what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about the fact that you, in addition to doing your workouts and doing everything that I'm sure is being expected of you as a runner, you're this winter, you're going to go ahead and play basketball all winter. And I love basketball is my thing. I love basketball, so I love it. And so your high school coach was a college basketball teammate of mine. So that's one of the ways I know you. And shout out to Coach Feeney. And tell me, I don't even know which question to ask first. Is it why you do it, or is it how you're able to do it? Because you have to have a lot going on to be able to get all those things done. And so the why and the how, either way, answer them, please.
Okay. I'll do the why first because why I do it is probably then how I can do it. But yeah, basketball is definitely I love the sport. I've been playing it honestly. It's my first sport that I ever started playing. My dad coached me when I was really young and then played it ever since. Probably been playing for like 12 years, ever since I was super tiny. But in high school, I've just found another love for it because of Coach Feeney and because of all the girls on the team. Middle school, I went to Kingsley, and then you play against people from Chiddix and Evans, and then there's always like a clash because everyone's so competitive. But then when you get to high school, you get to be with all those girls at Normal Community, and so it's just so fun to come together with all those girls. We have such a good relationship, and Coach Feeney does such an amazing job of making it more than just basketball. He always says that. And so we also have two kind of sayings that we go by, which iron sharpens iron, where we make each other better, and then toughen together, which I think goes really well with mentality and being mentally tough and how you can't be tough on your own. You got to have everyone in it together. And so that's kind of what we talk about. We talk a lot about mental toughness on the basketball court. And that's why I like basketball so much and just Normal Community Basketball Team because it's so much more than the sport. We learn life lessons along the way, and we really do things as a family while playing the sport we love. And so that's my why. That's why I do it, because I love it. I really do love the people, not only the sport. And that's also how I can do it, because I feel like if it's just something you somewhat like, it's going to make it really impossible to get up early in the mornings and run because you got basketball practice later at night. So yeah, how I do it is I usually get up in the winter around 5:30 maybe and get my workout in. I'm training for indoor season at that point, and so I do a lot on the treadmill since it's cold in Illinois, sometimes snowing. So getting up early, doing the workout, and then later at night we have basketball practice. And so it's definitely a lot on the body. Got to make sure you're fueling the entire time, but I wouldn't want it any other way. Basketball is a nice mental break from running. I'm a strong believer that I could never run 24/7 throughout the entire year. I just think I would get, not tired of it. I love running a ton, so I couldn't get tired of it. But your body needs a break, and your mind needs a break. So it's good to take time off, and basketball is that perfect outlet. And then when I come back to track, it's there, and I love it even more. So yeah, I would not want high school without basketball. It's definitely been a great experience, and Coach Feeney and the team, it's just such a great opportunity. I'm glad I'm a part of it.
It has to make for some long days.
It definitely does. Yeah, some
Yeah.
long days.
What's I'm assume you still do your school work and things like that, right? Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I have a vision of you like reading and doing homework, running on a treadmill or something, just trying to like get things done? But I'm sure that's you're probably too focused on running to do that.
There was once last year where I was watching some, like, science videos while on the treadmill because I had a test, and I was like, "I need to multitask, I'm not gonna have enough time," so I was watching the videos while running. I would not recommend, I didn't remember the information too well. But, yeah, long days, you definitely have to be on top of it, definitely have a to-do list of the schoolwork I'm gonna get done when I get home. But, yeah, definitely had some late nights, and sleep is also very important, but uh, yeah, it's just I enjoy doing it all. It's exciting to have busy days.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're older now, and you can drive and do stuff. But you must have had some great parental support and people really helping you out through this.
Yeah, for sure. My parents are amazing. Always here for me, and encouraging me throughout. And my mom works at the school, and so she's kind of that academic help as well. And so, yeah, she is there to help with classes and just is kind of that supportive person. She's honestly like one of my best friends. And so, yeah, I can tell her anything and she'll help me through everything. So, got a great support system. My brother as well, he runs too. And so, he's kind of also that factor who is always going to hold me accountable too. He's going to get his run in, and so I got to go too. So in the winter, sometimes we'll run together, which is nice. That way I'll have someone to train with in the mornings. But yeah, love the support system. Cross country coaches as well, track coaches. They're always
Do you, do
there.
you do you have like dueling treadmills?
No, we don't. Yeah, we
Uh,
really should invest. We don't have enough room in the basement for that, but
yeah.
that
No,
would be nice.
I'm trying to get a vision here of you doing that, and that's it. Is your brother younger?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
or no, he is a sophomore now. He was a freshman,
Okay.
but now he's a
Yeah.
sophomore.
So a little bit of sibling rivalry there, but
Oh yes.
that's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Uh, so what I want to get, and I love you talking about the multi sport idea because I think that's I think that kids need to take a break from their number
Mhm.
one because everybody and these days is like I got to have a number one. I think it's great to have a break from it mentally, physically, all those things. And I'd love to hear you doing that. And you're very successful at your number one, but you're still like, hey, I'm still going to do my number two because I like it, right? So which is great. But what I want to ask you about now is I work with a fair amount of female athletes, and there just is it's not a I'm not gonna completely put females and males into two different camps, but you know the males can tend to be a little bit more confident. I don't think it's all true confidence, I think it's fake confidence, but that's a whole nother time for another situation. But I work with a lot of female athletes that really struggle with their confidence, and a lot of them are really good at what they do, and I don't see that in you. I see a lot of confidence, and we've talked about it. And I would love to hear your take on the confidence and how you develop it, and really what advice you have for some female athletes that are struggling with confidence and what they need to develop.
Yeah, of course. I think it is really hard in sports and especially in the running world because you're constantly comparing yourself. And running is literally, are you faster than me? The times say it. So it's hard not to compare yourself. And also with social media, it's obviously hard. I've been in that boat where, you're looking at someone else and you're like, why am I not like that? I would like to be like that. But I'm not. And just I think the biggest thing to take away from yourself is that everyone is different and everyone has their own path. And so you just kind of got to focus on what makes you happy and what works for you. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Just do your own thing. That's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And you'll eventually get there. And so, yeah, that's what I found is that just stop worrying about, what other people are doing and find what works for you. And you'll be your best.
I I love it. Comparison really gets us, and
Hmm.
for athletes that's hard because, like you said, like how do I not compare? Like she's a second faster than me, but
Hmm.
you can compete without comparing, and competition is fantastic, and comparison is tricky. It can make it difficult. So
Yeah.
I
I
love I
think
love that. Yeah,
I think also one other thing that I would add is that if you just find like if you truly love something and you like can find your happiness in it and you can find your people in a sport or in an activity that you're doing, you're going to eventually find your confidence there because if you have those supportive people, if you really have something that you're passionate about, then you're really going to just find kind of your niche, your spot where you belong, and then slowly with the right people and the right mindset, you're going to find your confidence.
great advice. Great advice. Find you do have to have the passion. I think that helps. Find the
Mhm.
passion. If you have the passion, you really don't care if you're
Yeah.
winning, losing, doing whatever. You just like, I mean,
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you'll have a great basketball team this year, but you're not going to have the success there that, no coach, no offense, Coach Fiend, but you're not going to, I don't know if you guys are looking for a state championship there or if that's, that's, that's really hard. Right. But you still love it all the same. And I
Right.
think that's the point. So last question here. What did I not ask you that I should have?
Oh gosh. I
I
would
know.
say,
I put you on the spot, so I'm gonna stall here for a second while you give an answer. But yeah, I love to ask the question. What should I have asked you that I didn't?
okay, I think kind of going off the like mental toughness thing, I was kind of thinking about this beforehand. I think mental toughness really like coexists kind of with discipline as well. And I think as an athlete, the small things, I think kind of asking athletes about what are like the small things that you do every day to make yourself better? I think that's a good question to ask people, and so I can go ahead and answer that, I guess.
Oh, I
Uh,
would love to hear it. I'd love to hear the small things. Yeah.
yeah, because I think the small things are the hardest. You kind of look at athletes and you see the highlights, you see the best things.
Hmm.
You on social media, you see them doing like their hardest training workout, but in reality, like that obviously is going to make you better. But it's the smaller things that really get you from good to great. And those things are really hard. They take mental toughness, they take a ton of discipline. And I definitely am not always great at doing the small things. I think some of the small things that are, very vital in success are you got to have good nutrition. You don't have to be super strict. Just, get the foods that are good for you. Get enough of it. But I definitely have a lot of desserts, which are needed. You need that in your diet to be able to run good. And then also just waking up and getting the run done and doing your stretches and doing your mobility and getting the strength training in. It's all hard to fit in a single day. Like you start putting together your schedule and you realize there's not going to be a lot of time for, a ton of free time, and you got to get good hours of sleep so you can't be up super late. And if you are yeah. So it's a lot of small things. You realize that it is a full-time job. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff. So that's why you really got to love it. But I think, if you really do love those small things, you're going to love as well. And so that's what I think really gets good athletes to become great athletes.
I Yeah, it's you have to embrace that. Well, I like to call it the grind. You have to
Mhm.
embrace that daily grind, and it's like it takes 100 small things to equal a little bit of progress, but you have to have it. You have to have it. So man, just great answer. That's a great you didn't need me. That was great. That was a great question and a great answer. I could not have done any better. So oh, it's been fantastic talking to you, Allie. I appreciate you coming on. Any last comments? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. uh, I wish you. I don't. Here's the thing. I was gonna say I wish you all the luck, but I don't see. I don't believe in luck. I believe like it's the work, right? And if you,
I agree.
it's not like I'm saying that luck doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is I don't want you to. You don't rely on luck, so why should I wish you any luck? Right? I don't need it. You don't need the luck. I wish you good effort. How about that? That's what I need to start
I
saying.
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what gets you. That's what gets it done. So, Allie, great to talk to you. Go Iron Man and do you guys go Iron Men or Iron Women? What do you do?
Iron Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that was weird.
Yeah.
Go Iron Man and go USA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Parents, do you know that your child struggles with a negative voice in their head when they play? If so, do something about it. My webinar coming up is called Own Your Voice and Empower Your Game. You see, the inner voice wields immense influence over your athlete's mental state. Successful athletes recognize that confidence, resilience, and lasting success are deeply intertwined with a positive inner dialogue. So invest in the mental health of your athlete, not just for athletics, but for a lifetime of victories. Join this webinar to gain tools and techniques needed to nurture a positive inner voice. And again, that's not just for athletics, but for a fulfilling life ahead. Register now for the webinar that's on Sunday, October 22nd at 6 o'clock p.m. and learn how to own your voice to empower your game. The Mental Metal Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Quick Cut. Quick Cut is the new alternative to Huddle. It's no secret why Quick Cut is the fastest growing platform in the country. Their video analysis platform has everything you need. Plus, you'll get triple the storage at about half the price. And now get even more when you use the promo code 50hours for 50 hours of free video storage. Make the switch. You'll be glad you did. Visit quickcut.com today. Welcome back to the Mental Middle Podcast. And the first thing I can say is I will reiterate, and I said it on the podcast, that was the first conversation I've ever had with Allie Ince. She's not a client of mine. We didn't do any prep work. And I say that because I was beyond, I don't think surprised is the word, but pleasantly surprised and very excited about her answers. I got into this, as I mentioned, to help athletes and to help them do things. And the coaching and the positive psychology has transformed my life and helped me so much. And I've got this business now working with athletes, and I know that I can help them gain confidence and move forward and succeed in athletics and succeed in life. And I know this, and I know it's useful, and I know it's helpful. But when I get somebody on here who I've never had a conversation with, who is just by anybody's measuring stick, a successful athlete. I mean, we're talking about she's 3-time state champion in the 800. She's a Olympic, a U.S. athlete for the under 200 or under 20. I mean, she is a successful athlete, period. And when I ask her questions about voices, she says what I'm preaching, that negative voice has to go and you have to work on that positive voice. And when I talk about adversity, like I didn't even bring it up, she brings it up and she talks about how she likes adversity and she knows that's how she gets better. And she talked about how she puts a practice together, or how hard she works and the effort she puts in with practice, knowing that it's going to make her better. Just to have somebody I've never had a conversation with be in line with what I'm trying to do, it's fuel. It fuels my fire on what I'm doing, what I'm sharing, and the message I am trying to get out there. So that is just, I love hearing what she said. And again, those things that she mentioned are, we didn't even talk about the idea of a growth mindset. I've talked about it on this podcast before. Again, if you haven't read that book by Carol Dweck on mindset, she talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And Allie is a phenomenal example of using that growth mindset. A couple of the things that they say in a growth mindset is that you need to be able to embrace challenges. So those with a fixed mindset run from challenges, but those with a growth mindset embrace them. Say, hey, I know this is a challenge and I'm going to embrace it. And she talked about adversity, about how hard her practices were, but how that gained her confidence for getting better. Like she knew that her confidence is not false confidence. Her confidence comes from her putting the work in and saying, this is a challenge. This is effort. And that's another thing about growth mindset. It says, hey, that effort is the path to mastery. And that's how Allie operates. And I really loved the idea that there's a growth mindset idea that says that people with a growth mindset persist in the face of challenges. And what's amazing about what Allie said was she not only persists in the face of challenges, but she is happy when it happens, is excited about it. She talked about how her 3 state meets, there's been a rain delay, and it sets everybody off, and it makes the whole meet difficult and harder and more challenging. And when that happens, she loves it because she knows she is more mentally tough than others, and that's going to play to her advantage. So think about that, going into that mindset, not just for athletics, but for life, and saying, hey, here's something bad. And I just got hit with something bad, and being like, okay, that favors me. That favors me. Right. Think about how useful that is, because we don't want to just, like, life is going to throw us curveballs. Life is going to give us challenges. And if you just, every time one hits you and you like, oh, woe is me, what am I going to do? That wears on a person, that wears on people. But if something bad happens and you go, oh, I'm prepared for this, and that favors me, and that means I'm going to be more successful. How useful is that? Now, it's not easy. That takes practice, and but you can do it. I mean, Allie is just a senior in high school, so she's young and already able to do that. So she's got this ability coming for life that is just going to be like, she's going to be successful at what she does. I don't have any doubts. Another thing that I was really excited about her talking about was the voices. And we talked about the difference between her track voice and her cross country voice. What was so interesting about that was that she used the positive voice when she's doing track. She was very intentional about how she was going to talk to herself setting up to the line, how she was going to talk to herself in the first 100, then the 200, and then the last lap, how she was going to encourage herself, push herself, but do it in a positive manner. That intentional positive voice, again, I can tell you that that's useful, but we're talking about a 3-time, or I don't know how many state champions she has, and she runs for the US, under 20 team now. Like, you don't have to listen to me. Like, that's what she does, and she is successful. So listen to her. But then she also mentioned that she didn't have the right voice in cross country, and it affected her performance, affected her joy, and she didn't like it as well. What is so mature about her is that she recognized that and said, I need to fix that, rather than just let it overcome you. But she said, I want to fix it. And also the maturity she had to be able to mention or recognize that she had 2 different voices in 2 different situations. Her track voice was very positive, very useful, and her cross country voice was very negative and, detrimental. And for her to recognize that two different situations are causing two different voices. Again, it's very impressive for her to notice that and to make adjustments to the ones that needed adjusting. I would challenge all of us to start to figure out, where do we hear our negative voice, and what situations in our life, at certain jobs we have to do, or different situations we have to face, where does your negative voice come out, and how does that affect you, and how can you adjust that? That's really good medicine for all of us, and worth working on. So I think that, again, I could go on and on about all the things that Allie said, and just even her stuff about motivation. I asked her why and how she does basketball, and she said, well, I need to just tell you the why first, because that'll help explain how I do it. I'm like, again, so mature and so on the money for her to explain, yeah, I do it because I love it, and I'm able to put in those long hours and all that extra work because I have this love for the people and for what I learned from basketball and for track. So again, what can you take away from this for especially if there's any female athletes listening, or their parents, what can you take away from it? I think that the first step about modifying these things is the recognition step. If if you're the athlete, or if you're a parent, if you know that those negative voices and those negative mindsets and just those negative thoughts are pervasive throughout a game or a practice, you need to recognize that is an issue and make steps to adjust it. The research that's coming out is really clear on this. If you constantly focus on yourself negatively and blame yourself for things, and what they call overthinking, all those things, they are precursors to some very serious mental health issues that happen down the road. If you use a negative voice constantly on yourself, it will continue to get louder, and it will continue to tell more lies. And the more that happens, the more anxiety, depression, and some pretty serious issues are likely to come up. And again, that's not me. The research is pretty clear on that. If you are struggling with some negative voices, negative thoughts, it is worth your time and effort to make those adjustments, right? Through intentional activities. Hire a coach, read a book, but write about it. Do something. Don't just let it persist. That's what I would say. I do. If you hear the ads here, I have a webinar coming up on October 22nd, 6:00. It's a virtual webinar. I'll plan to record it and put it out there if you don't make it, but it is about owning your voice to empower your game, and just how important it is to own your voice. I always talk about the controllables and focus on the controllables. That circle of control, I do it all the time. Focus on what you can control. Well, your inner voice is controllable. It's not easy to control, but it's worth controlling for all the benefits that we get from it. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast, and hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Just Allie Ince, a fantastic athlete, fantastic role model for a lot of female athletes. So again, if you know of anybody, please share them this episode. Let them learn some things and help them succeed in athletics and in life. So until next time, I have been your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and this has been the Mental Metal Podcast. Thanks again for listening to the Mental Metal Podcast, produced by Coraggio Media, sponsored by QuickCut, a video management platform for every level of play, and by Mental Metal Coaching, helping athletes learn to face adversity in a spirited and resilient way. The Mental Metal Podcast is created each week to help players develop more mental toughness, and that is something that will help all of us. So help me out and like and share the Mental Metal Podcast with your friends. Until next time, keep forging your metal.